All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Sugg. I am the Chief Mortgage Lending Officer for Michigan First Credit Union. I actually sit right here at Evergreen, so hopefully you've been by during this holiday season to hear the music and certainly see our lights. It is something to behold, certainly. You can't help but be in the holiday spirit when you come to the credit union. So if you do come by and say hi to us, I sit right behind the coffee shop, with the rest of the mortgage team. And I'm super excited to walk through our agenda with you today and welcome you to the call. We have a couple of great speakers, which we'll meet in a minute. Our topic today is buying and selling in today's market. It is ever changing. I can tell you as we go through the call, there will be a lot of good stuff that we talk about, but certainly, turning from what was a selling market to hopefully into a more balanced market as we move through 2024. The bulk of the call will be really talking about with our experts about what's going on today and the things that they feel important. And then we'll end up with some tips and tricks, really the three things that they want you to take away from today's call. And as I mentioned earlier, we are recording the call and we ask that you put all your questions in the chat box, if that would be great. Generally speaking, we try to get as much content into the call and we run out of time. So again, welcome to this month's last of the year, actually, our webinar, and our next one will be in February with a new time frame. So look for that to come out here soon. All right, Tim Whalen. So we have two first timers to our call today. Tim Whalen, not new to Michigan First or to mortgages, but certainly new to our homebuyer webinar. So Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself. What has brought you to us today to talk about, and then what you offer our members.
Well, one thing I'd like to talk about is the interest rates have certainly settled down from where they started the first of the year. We were originally just about 60 days ago, low eights, and now we're into the mid to upper sixes. So it's a really exciting closing out this year and hopefully 2024 settling in. One of the things I'd like to point out on the bullet point here is over my career, I've helped thousands of families purchase a home. I've done over $1 billion in business. And I'd just like to bring that up because all those people you had to work with, you had to develop a trust, and over all those people, I've been able to learn a lot about the different lendings, a lot of different products that we have, a lot of different challenges our buyers have. So I want people to be very comfortable knowing that I have a lot of experience under my belt. And another thing that's not on the list that I'd like to point out is that I've been married for 33 years, have two lovely daughters, and I have a guinea pig who's only bitten me once.
All right. Yeah. Just listen, married to the same person for 33 years. That's what you should leave with for sure. So, all right. Thanks, Tim. And we appreciate you sharing some of that expertise and time with us today. Our next real estate expert on the call is Rich Sparks. Rich is with Keller Williams Realty. So Rich, tell us a little bit about yourself, certainly what you bring to our membership and what we learn from you today.
Well, I come from a corporate background. I was traveling 50 weeks out of the year, which does not produce a healthy long-term relationship with a bride who I've been married to 30 years now, and switched into real estate. I've been a full-time realtor for well over 2 decades. And I think really the key is keeping an eye on the market, the unique challenges, and then structuring a plan for clients to maximize their experience and to do the best they can in that market. And we're in a changing market once again, which I'm glad we're here addressing it today.
Yeah, it is like you both probably. I've been doing this for a few decades, 3 or so decades, and I've seen many markets. But this last really 6 or 7 quarters is something new that I think we've been through. So having you guys on today to talk us through a little bit of this buying and selling market today is going to be, I think, an awesome discussion. So let me lead off with Tim. Tim, you brushed on it slightly there, but tell me the state of the mortgage market today. I know the last 7 quarters, we've been on quite a roller coaster ride. So where are we today, and what do you feel about it? What are you seeing in the market?
Oh man, what a breather it's been. It's especially this last few weeks where we're seeing the rates coming down from the low 8s to the mid to upper 6s. The trend line from what everybody's reading and predicting is rates will kind of settle down a little bit further and lower. That'll bring in some more inventory, which has been the biggest problem we've had. It'll bring in some more buyers, so it's still going to be a competitive market for certain, but it's really refreshing to see that the rates will hopefully get a lot of those people who refinanced a few years off the fence and back into the market. So it's been really refreshing.
Yeah, and most of that rate decrease has really been driven by a couple of things. CPI, certainly consumer
Mhm.
price index, has cooled a little bit, but more importantly, the Fed has come out and said that they're done raising the federal funds rate, and that's given the investors really confidence to come back into the bonds. So we've seen that bond yield falling.
It's exciting to see.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll tell you, from really late September, early October, when we were in the low eights, like you said, to really in some first-time homebuyer scenarios in the mid sixes to maybe even low sixes is kind of cool. So I'll pose the same. Thank you, Tim. I'll pose the same question to Rich, but more from a real estate perspective. Man, last summer you couldn't find a house to buy or sell.
Yep.
And if you could, man, could you even afford the payment? So what are we looking at today, Rich?
Well, one of the things to keep in mind, though, as far as rates, just stepping back a tad, I always told folks, hey, you're marrying the house, you're only dating the mortgage.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks are waiting for that mortgage rate to really drop quite a bit lower, but they got to remember their competition level is going to increase dramatically. There will be more inventory coming on the market. Right now, what we're kind of seeing is we still are getting multiple offers if a property has been maintained well and priced correctly. If it's not, it's sitting.
Yeah.
And that's
Is that
kind
kind
of
of the unicorn right now? Are you seeing less and less of that right now?
as far as the multiple offers go.
Well, no, from a house that's ready, priced right, and been maintained well. Are you seeing? Is that where the shortage in inventory is?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it's all of us have seen a lot of houses and photos of houses that are for sale, and you're like, could you have hired a cleaner?
Yeah.
You know,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, so that happens. But yeah, the folks that have maintained their property, price it well. We just had one that we closed yesterday. They were actually a for sale by owner for 4 months at 430, did not sell. We closed them yesterday at 457 and we had 9 offers on it, but it was well maintained, clean home. They listened, things went great.
Yeah. Certainly. And I think that plays right into my next question. Like, you touched on price correctly. So what exactly does that mean when pricing the home correctly? What expertise, and maybe even merging questions, why do I
Sure.
need a real estate agent? Like what is some of the stuff that you can actually offer somebody when they're thinking about selling? Because many of us have held off on moving, downsizing, doing other things because our great rate. And if rates are going to come back to us, what do we need to know to use an agent?
Well, one of the things you're really looking for in an agent is someone with experience. You got to remember that 87.5% of all agents will go out of business within 3 years. That's a national statistic.
Wow.
You're looking for someone that has that longevity. First off, as a full-time agent, this is your biggest asset. It's very, very important. You don't need a part-timer. It's like going to a part-time dentist. Doesn't probably going to come
Right.
out very well.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich, can I butt in for a moment?
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about, or tell us a little bit about that divorced person that we were talking about the other day, and
Oh.
why coming across you as a professional real estate really saved a lot of problems.
Well, that was a unique situation. I was on the listing side. I was not representing the buyer who was going through a divorce. Just prior to the closing, I was going over a few things with the other agent to make sure we'd have a nice, clean closing. And she just happened to mention, oh, yeah, she's going through a divorce. And I said, well, she's buying the property for cash. Is she going through the divorce or is she done with the divorce? Oh, no, she's going through it. And I go, you might want to call her divorce attorney to see if maybe that asset should be put in mama's name, who is providing the money, or it might get tied up in the divorce. And sure enough, that was the case. We were able to switch it real quickly at the end, switch the buyer, just protecting this young lady who is going through that situation. But those kinds of things comes from experience.
Yeah.
As far as pricing a home goes, a lot of times you'll see where folks go, well, let's just try it. Worst thing in the world you can do, if you want to get the lowest price possible for your house, overprice it, let it sit on the market a long time. And then what happens is people start looking at it and going, well, what's wrong with this house? price the home correctly, get the proper marketing out, and you'll maximize the sales.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons you need a professional real estate agent, not only to help you determine the price, but to look at the market and say, okay, here's all the things we have to look at. Here's the range we should be at. And this is how we're going to get to those buyers to get into your door. And sometimes you just need an opinion that is not skewed. It's almost like going to the doctor. If you went to the doctor and you had a big growth on the side of your neck, you don't want them to go, hey, if you tilt your head, it looks kind of good.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right? And that's what a good real estate agent should do, is come there and not necessarily tell you what you want to hear, but tell you their honest opinion.
Yeah. I guess the old adage, we do this for a living. Like we're in this every day, does make sense even in real estate. And that doesn't even get into the legality side of, it's a contract, it literally, you're negotiating a legal instrument. So I'm going to switch over to Tim real quick. So Tim, most of our business, in fact, almost 60% of our business here at the credit union last year was first-time home buyer. Mostly because that is our market. That is people that are forming households, coming out of a rental or joining two rentals together to buy a house. So tell us a little bit about that pre-approval process and the thought process and on different programs for first-time home buyers.
All right. So when you go shopping for a home and you find the house that you're looking for, you need to, if you're not paying cash for the house, you need to go see someone like Rich, and you're going to present an offer to them. And with that offer, you need to have some sort of a pre-approval or pre-qualification letter attached with that. And there is a huge difference between those two terms, between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. So I want to let Rich answer this question. Say, Rich, if you're getting two offers from people, one has a pre-approval and one has a pre-qualification, which one are you gonna take and why?
Well, here's the situation. When I'm representing a seller, I have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for their best interests. And this goes back to that expertise. First thing I'm going to do, regardless of the label, is call the lender, someone like yourself. And I'm going to ask these questions. I'm going to say, have you verified employment? Have you verified income? Have you verified reserves? Because there are a lot of companies out there that, unfortunately, someone will go online, fill out a little information, and they will kick out what they think is a pre-approval when it's really a pre-qualification. Once we verify it's a true pre-approval, we go to the seller and we go, hey, Mr. Seller, I hear here one offer with a pre-approval. They've been verified. All their information, everything, they've been put through desktop underwriting. What this means to you, when we go through the process and we get down to closing, barring no issues with the house, that buyer will be there. Over here, we have a pre-qualification. Nothing's been verified. They've just taken the buyer's, whatever he said, and they gave him this piece of paper. They may or may not be there at the end. What I would recommend to you is always risk reward. If you're going to go with this pre-qual, then let's bump up that price because you have a higher risk. And if that doesn't make sense to you, then go with the pre-approval. Let's accept their offer because they're going to be there at the end.
And just let everybody know, here at the credit union, we do a pre-approval. We gather all the
true pre-approval.
Yep, we do everything like we do a full application. So
yeah, guys, I can't tell you how many times I call on a lender and I'll say, is this a true pre-approval? And they'll go, oh yeah. What date did you verify income? Well, we haven't yet. They just told us. Okay, great. Have you verified reserves, meaning the money they're going to need to close? Well, no, but they told us they're going to be getting. Well, this is not a pre-approval. Right. You can call it whatever you want, but it's not a pre-approval. So whoever you guys end up using for your mortgage, and I'm the real estate agent, I have nothing to do with the mortgages. You want to build a good team, a true pre-approval. If they don't collect docs from you, ask you those questions, they're putting you in a bad situation. I have seen so many people go through well-known companies, and a week or two before closing, they find out they don't qualify for the mortgage because that pre-work wasn't done.
Right.
They've already paid for their appraisal. They've already paid for their home inspection. And imagine the heartbreaking news when that lender calls and goes, hey, we just looked over all your docs and you don't qualify.
Yeah. Actually, I have a question in the chat box about pre-approvals expiring. So we use credit. So we say every 90 days, we refresh the credit to make sure that situation hasn't changed. But they do expire over time.
Yep.
So you don't get pre-approved once, but.
And going over that credit, Dan, we pull from the tri-merge report, and the mortgage industry has a specialty credit scoring model. So
Yeah.
sometimes people will come to us and say, my Experian is this number. And I always want to emphasize to people that number may not coincide with what we pull on our side. And that's why it's so important to look at a pre-approval and pull from all three bureaus to make sure we're looking for the right credit scores for our industry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
actually,
guys, isn't
classic.
it pretty easy to update that? Let's say the 90 days go past and they're still searching. How hard is it to update that?
Just really simple as a few buttons.
Yep.
Not hard at all.
Yep, repull credit, make sure nothing changed. Recheck assets real quick and get that out. And Tim, what does it cost for a pre-approval?
It costs you absolutely nothing. You're getting probably the best deal on the market. You get a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and you're paying nothing for it.
Listen, technology is great. We have a great point of sale system here at the credit union, but just filling out that information, to Rich's point, without supplying the follow-up documentation. So if you're filling that's like an online estimator out, that gives you a good idea of kind of what you can afford.
Right.
But to Rich's point, until you get with the lender and supply documentation, do the work, then you're getting a pre-approval and something that we actually can lend on. So great explanation between pre-qualified and pre-approved. So Rich, we'll go back to you. You mentioned inspection. I know a lot last summer, buyers were waiving all kinds of stuff during waiving the appraisal, waiving the inspection. So talk to us a little bit about what your feelings are in a private inspection on a property.
Just like I used to tell my kids, don't do it. Never waive a home inspection. Okay. You might love the house. If you're working with an agent that tells you to waive a home inspection, I would get a different agent. There is too much that can go wrong. Even on even if you do new construction, I always recommend to my clients to still have a home inspection done. And it's amazing the things we find. But you're looking at getting into a property, a major investment. And if they come across something down the road, you move in, you have a family of 3. The person that lived there before was a elderly woman, and you guys go to wash your laundry and take a shower, and everything backs back into the house because the sewer lines are collapsed. That could cost you anywhere from $3,000 to $30,000, depending on where that sewer line hooks up with the city. And that could have all been avoided by simply getting a home inspection. Never waive it. It's very, very important. And use a professional.
Yeah.
Don't use Uncle Louie, who's really good in the garage. We love Uncle Louie, but
Right.
You want a nice professional.
You don't have to call Uncle Louie after you close and something bad.
Right.
So yeah. So certainly a lot of value in a home inspection, and you learn a lot about the house. You talked about earlier marrying the house or marrying the property. This is a lot like marriage. It's a 30-year commitment, and you might not be there 30 years, but certainly that's the plan when you sign up. So,
let me say one more thing about the home inspection. They're going to find things wrong, guys. That's what they do. Reverse polarized plugs, things like that. They're going to give you a laundry list of maintenance items. That's to be expected. Realistically, what you're looking for is major issues that you need to get out of that transaction. Some of these things are negotiable, but I will warn you on this one. I'm working for the listing side and I'm representing the seller. I've had buyers come back with what's called a dissatisfaction with remedies, saying, hey, we'll continue forward, and if you drop the price $5,000 and da, da, da. And we've had backup offers, and depending on what they're asking for, if they're asking $5,000 because a light switch isn't working, we'll go to a different offer. You know, so you want to have realistic expectations. But if there's something major, you've got to get it taken care of before that transaction closes, and it has to be in writing.
Yeah, certainly foundation, roof,
Roof.
mechanicals. You want all the big stuff. You want to make sure are no
Absolutely.
surprises. Yeah, drains, things like that. So, all right. So switching back to Tim real quick. Tim, all right. I want to buy a house. How much money do I need to buy a house? Does it have to be 20% down? What's the benefit of that, or can I get in for less?
Oh, that's a good question, Dan. That's where definitely meeting one-on-one with someone like myself is real important, because we want to go through your income. We want to go through your credit. We want to look through your asset, because sometimes you can get in really dependent on maybe you're a veteran. You can get in with really no down payment. Maybe you can do a MIJDA with 1%. Sometimes you need to have more if you're buying a different type of property, like an investment. So it's very specialized. Everybody seems to be advertised that everybody fits in the same little box, but they don't. Everybody's different. And it's real important that we sit down and go through it, because you don't need the 20% in most cases. Matter of fact, I can't even remember the last time I did a 20% down transaction. So most of the time you can get in for 3%, sometimes 1%. So the one-on-one is really important to do, because you don't need that 20. And sometimes it's not advantageous to do the 20% either, at least from a pricing standpoint.
It wasn't that long ago. When I say maybe 25 years ago, that you needed 20% down. Like that, the banks wouldn't even look at you unless you had that 20% down, and that gets you out of that private mortgage insurance, certainly, where you pay a little bit more. But as we've seen credit quality improve and we've seen that risk factor come down, even with 5% down or 10% down, you still need mortgage insurance, which covers the lender risk in that gap. But it's really, as long as your credit's good and your ratios are good, is really, it's insignificant in the
that's really come down. I mean, gosh, during the downturn in 08, it got really expensive, but now it's really minimal. I would say it's not even a consideration, I think, anymore.
Yeah. But you know, one of the things I like about you guys and working with you guys, and this is an unpaid announcement, I see Tim where he more customizes the loan to the individual. So instead of taking that individual and just saying, okay, you're a circle, we're going to put you in this square box, he's really customized it. We worked with some clients not too long ago that had the ability to do the 20% down, but based on their goals, it didn't make sense.
Right.
And he really went through and showed them the pros and cons of it and customized that loan product to their particular needs, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, we actually work with a multitude of investors. We sell direct to Fannie, Freddie, and the Federal Home Loan Bank, which is our biggest investors. But you know, remember, there are some first-time home buyer programs that rate is subsidized. So your rate's actually lower for putting less money down based on the program. So it's, you know, there are some requirements on some that you can't have a lot of money in savings, but others not so much, like the Home Ready or Home Possible mortgages through Fannie and Freddie. You actually get a better rate, which is kind of cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah. All right, Rich. So you talked about this a little bit, for maybe from the buyer perspective.
Sure.
How best do I negotiate a multiple offer situation? I find the dream house, I put my offer in, and then you tell me 39,000 offers come in. So how do I negotiate that as a buyer and set the proper expectation?
Well, the first thing is having an agent that reaches out to the other agent, finds out what that seller's hot points are. Maybe that seller is concerned about their transitioning time, that they don't need 30 days, they need 60 days on the property. And if that's a hot button for them, you want to make sure that's included in that offer. So maybe you go, hey, we're going to give you 60 days, no charge. Okay. Other things to look at is really having that true pre-approval, because you can only do what you can do. If there's 15 offers, you're a conventional 20% down, and you're going against someone who's cash that's going 10% over the property price, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich,
So you want to maximize those positives. Try to find out what the hot buttons are from the seller and gear that offer towards it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, Rich, I recently sold a home. Well, it's been a few years now. And I found it was very important that the agents knew each other and that people kind of knew the lender. Is that still important? I mean, I felt that was important that we knew the people we were working with, we were going to sit at the closing table and I was going to get my money.
Well,
Does that play a factor too sometimes?
it does. I mean, I've been in the business long enough where, I mean, I'm on the realtor boards. I'm very well known in the industry. And I have had agents push where my client's offer went through just because they knew me and they knew I stayed on top of the transaction. But it does go back to that 87% turnover rate, that or 85.7% turnover rate with agents. It's really it's so different now, Tim, with technology. It used to be people specialized in one little area, but now with technology, you might have someone from commerce over at Macomb Township down in, so that's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, and it is, you can tell somebody had asked in the chat box actually around what's the checklist for choosing, a qualified realtor and a qualified lender. And the first important action I would give them as advice is that you have to model match personality with your lender and your realtor. And if you feel awkward or uneasy in that initial meeting, walk away. Come see your local credit union. We have 35 different lenders here that certainly one of them is going to be sharing your value set. And that's super important because it's a process to buy a home. It doesn't happen in a day. It takes months and maybe even sometimes a year or two to get that done. So guys, we're right on the clock. A really great conversation. So I want to make sure that we get your 3 points in here. So let's start with Tim and we'll finish with Rich in this. So Tim, what are your 3 takeaways for our team members? They're on the screen, but if you could run through those real quick for us.
The pre-approved, the importance of credit and the cash to close. Is that what
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's real important. I mean, I can't emphasize enough, have a budget, start with a budget. It's so important to have a starting point. Sit down with someone so you can kind of see if that budget matches what you're looking for. And if there's a struggle, we can sit there at that pre-approval and put everything together for you. So maybe you can't buy now. We buy something quickly down the road by fixing things.
Yeah, certainly. It all starts with that pre-approval process. You meeting somebody, model matching, even if it's a year ahead of time. Like I want to buy a house in a year or two. You can't start soon enough in that planning process and having that conversation. All right. Rich, from your perspective, what are the 3 takeaways for our members today?
Having a great realtor agent, full-time, knows what they're doing. I would rather take the person that knew what they were doing than, I'm not that young, flashy kind of guy, but I'll tell you what, I'm very happy to say and you can ask Tim, my clients are overly happy when we go through because we do it as a teaching thing. We're pointing things out on the house. We're trying to set them up for success. Very important who your agent is. Preparing to sell your house. Clean, clean, clean. Clean will make you money. If you don't want to clean your home, hire someone. It'll be the best money you spend.
Yeah.
Have proper expectations of pricing, multiple offers, market predictions. If you're in a multiple offer situation once, twice, 3 times, and you don't get that home, don't get depressed. Don't give up. There's one out there for you. Homeownership is so important. Homeowners at the end of the day, net value are 40 times higher than renters when they go to retire. 40 times. This is the best leveraged investment you as a buyer can make.
Yep.
You're buying a $200,000 asset for, let's say, 10% down. Imagine going to Microsoft and saying, I want to buy $200,000 worth of stock. I'll give you $20,000 down. But if all the stock goes up in value, I want that. And I want to use the employee lounge on the weekend for barbecues.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah. Great analogy. I love that. And certainly Your 40 times the net worth, actually, it peaks right at 5 years. So 5 years of home
Yeah.
ownership, that homeowner is 40 times more net worth than the renter. And we're still in a market in Michigan where it is better to buy than to rent. You can't always say that about New York or San Diego, but certainly better to buy than rent.
But, and you really, can I touch on that real quick?
Sure.
Just a second. Right now, you see, I do a lot of social media marketing and such, so I'm kind of in that world. You see a lot of these folks out there talking about how it's better to rent than purchase. 9 times out of 10, they're doing that because if that comes up on their thumbnail, that's a little controversy. People will click on it, and that's what they want. But their rationales that I've seen here lately, they'll take the national average renting amount of renting and average home ownership, and they go, look, renting's so much cheaper. But now they're comparing a house you're purchasing in Shelby to a house you're renting in East Point.
Right.
There's more rentals in lower income areas.
Yeah.
So that number's skewed. And the other thing they tend not to take into account is you got to live somewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So just
Yeah,
keep
there's
that
no
in mind.
option-
Don't let
no
social
option
media
not to
influence
pay,
you.
unless you live with your parents. We all have a couple
Yep.
of those. All right. We're right at our time, and I appreciate you guys for joining today. So for all of our members on the phone, if you have questions in general about this webinar series, just email us at info@Michigan First Mortgage, and one of us team members will grab that. For those that are looking to buy homes or get pre-qualified, you certainly can visit us at michiganfirst.com/mortgage. Tim's on the call today, certainly, and his information is there. And then we're at 800-664-3828, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
Wow.
every day of the year. You can reach lending and talk to somebody about a mortgage. It's really cool. And then for all of the expert real estate advice you could ever need, reach out to Rich Sparks. His number's there. Certainly can help, and send him an email and ask those questions. Keep in mind that our chat box has been open this whole time, and if we didn't get to your question, Tim or Zareen, or maybe even myself, will reach out to you and get that answered today. Lastly, just a quick plug. We own Michigan First Insurance Agency, so whether you're renting, buying, selling, or need a quote on your auto, think of Michigan First. We shop 40 different insurance companies in our agency, so certainly a good benefit for our membership. With that, I want to thank everyone for attending the call today. Happy holidays. Enjoy the holiday season. Please promise me you won't stress out, and we'll see you in the new year. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks. Happy
Yeah.
holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. Thank you.